That summer vacation after the college entrance examination, I received 3 pieces of bad news. My family went bankrupt. Xu Jin, whom I had been chasing for 3 years, got together with his childhood sweetheart. As I expected, I did poorly in the college entrance examination. My dad sold the villa in the city center of Lincheng, and we moved back to our old hometown in the countryside. Later, I lost contact with everyone and found a repeat school to study again. A year later, I received the admission letter from Beijing University. A few days after enrollment, I ran into a former high school classmate in the cafeteria. She was also very surprised to see me here. Xie Jinyu? I turned around in response. In my sight, a familiar face walked towards me. It's really you, Cheng Ji said with a smile while holding her meal. Are you alone? Hearing this, I nodded. Then she said something to her 2 friends who were queuing up next to her and found a place to sit down with me. She was really surprised that I was here. I didn't dare to recognize you when I first saw your side profile. Cheng Ji was very sociable and had a cheerful personality in high school. It's just that at that time, I was completely focused on Xu Jin and didn't have much contact with her. By the way, why did you suddenly lose contact back then? We couldn't contact you even for the graduation farewell dinner. I smiled. My family went bankrupt and we moved back to our hometown. At that time, my mobile phone was also stolen. After hearing this, Cheng Ji kept saying that I was so miserable. Then she took out her mobile phone and wanted to add me on WeChat. After having a meal, I was going to the library. Cheng Ji accompanied me all the way. She looked at me several times, opened her mouth and then closed it again. I was puzzled as to what made this girl hesitant. Why are you hesitating? Cheng Ji smiled embarrassedly and scratched her head. Don't think I'm nosy? Didn't you contact Xu Jin this year either? Once upon a time, this name almost always affected my emotions. Hearing the name, Xu Jin, again, I actually had a feeling of being separated by a lifetime. No. I actually think it's a pity for you too. I was really shipping you two back then. No, not just me, the whole class was. Perhaps Cheng Ji's expression when she said this was so serious that I couldn't help but say, he doesn't like me. Girl, you shipped the wrong couple. I added in my heart, if you ship him with Song Yuan from the next class, it will be sweet. No. Do you know? At that time, Xu Jin was such a cool and indifferent person. He was also good looking. So many girls in the whole school wanted to chase him but didn't dare. She waved her hands and her eyes sparkled. You dared. You called Xu Jin sweetly every day, asked him to have meals and waited for him after class. Wow. My only pleasure in senior year was watching your interactions. He was very indifferent to others. Yeah, I know. But he always had a kind of helpless doting feeling towards you. Every time the teacher called your name, Xu Jin was always there to help you out. It was so sweet back then. I kept smiling. Do you know what it means to attack directly? At that time, I was always putting my hot face against his cold butt and following him like a little follower. He couldn't get rid of me and only felt helpless. Cheng Ji seemed to be really a CP leader. She walked with me all the way to the library and still seemed a bit reluctant to leave. Yeah, then I'll go first. Let's contact on WeChat. Bye. I waved at her and smiled. Bye. When I returned to the dormitory at night, my roommate Zhong Han was applying a mask and pointed at the macarons on my desk and said, Yeah, a classmate who said she was from your high school brought these for you. I walked over and took out my mobile phone and wanted to send a message to Cheng Ji. As if she had expected it, she said, Don't refuse. This is the graduation gift I prepared for the whole class back then. I'm giving it to you today to make up for it. After thinking about it, I sent her a thank you emoji. She replied almost instantly, Yeah, let me pull you back into our high school WeChat group. My hand stopped on the screen, and the cold and clear eyebrows and eyes of a boy appeared in my mind. It's been so long. He already has a girlfriend. I should have nothing to be afraid of. Okay. A few seconds after the message was sent, the message page showed that I was pulled into the group chat. Immediately, several people in the group quickly sent out questions and surprises. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Is it really Xie Jinyu? The dormitory door was opened, and another roommate came back from outside. She threw her wet bag on the ground and complained, Why is this crappy weather suddenly raining? It couldn't wait for me to come back before raining. Jinyu, I'll take a shower first. I replied to her, okay, go quickly. Don't catch a cold. Okay. At this time, many classmates have popped up in the group. I quickly said, it's me. I am Xia Jinyu. Oh my god, what happened to you back then? We couldn't contact you at all. We were so scared. Yes. Sorry. My mobile phone was stolen back then. It was also a long time before I bought a new mobile phone. Hey, it's good as long as you're okay. Jinyu, I heard that your family went bankrupt. Is it true? Looking at this question, I blinked gently, yes. After that, the group seemed to be silent for a while. Immediately someone came out and said, it's all in the past. Do you have a lot of courses? If not, when can we get together? Wait for me to take a screenshot for you. It's simply inhumane. It's even more terrifying than high school. Wow, I don't feel it since I have 2 days on and 3 days off. I clicked on the group members and saw that Xu Jin's profile picture was still a Hello Kitty. Suddenly, I was puzzled in my heart. Didn't Song Yuan ask him to change it? Not knowing what was on my mind, I clicked on that profile picture. There was nothing in the moments. I thought maybe he had set permissions. Yeah. Zhonghan wrapped in a blanket came over. I panicked a little and covered my phone. Fortunately, Zhonghan's attention was all on the macarons and she didn't notice my action. Can I taste this macaron? She smiled embarrassedly. The macarons of this brand are quite delicious. I smiled and opened it for her. Take it. While eating, she said to me, by the way, yeah, are you free next Wednesday? Let's go to participate in a volunteer activity? Yes, okay. Okay. Then I'll go to bed. Thank you for the macarons, beauty. When I opened my phone again, the page showed that the other party had accepted your friend request. It's Xu Jin. I widened my eyes. Then the other side sent a message. Something? Oh no. He probably thought I was harassing him again. I hesitated whether to tell him that I clicked by mistake. Later, I thought it might not be good. No, added through group. After typing this sentence, I went to get clothes and take a shower. Anyway, he already has a girlfriend now. What could I possibly think about him? Above the unextinguished screen on my desktop, the other party is typing. Lasted for a while before a message came. Time passed quickly. On Wednesday, Zhonghan and I received the volunteer uniforms and walked towards the basketball court. Zhonghan couldn't hide her excitement. Fortunately, we were quick enough to finally grab this most popular volunteer activity. We can earn volunteer hours and also see handsome guys. And this time the school is actually the Polytechnic University next door. I looked at Zhonghan and narrowed my eyes. Did you give up on your club president so quickly? No. I'm just spreading my attention equally. Finally, we arrived at the basketball court. There were already many people standing in the huge court. Zhonghan and I put on our volunteer uniforms. She looked around. Afraid that your club president is here? I nudged her and joked with her. She looked in the direction of the basketball court entrance. Then she shook her finger at me. No, I'm looking for handsome guys. Then, she pulled me and turned my head to a group of people coming in. They were all wearing neat black and white basketball uniforms. When my eyes met the outstanding boy in the crowd, my pupils dilated and my heartbeat uncontrollably accelerated. At the same time, Zhonghan's excited voice came from beside me. Did you see the boy with raspberry red hair in the middle? Isn't he very handsome? I tell you, he is definitely the well-deserved school grass. So handsome. After such a long time, I didn't expect to meet Xu Jin again here. I also didn't expect that he would dye such a flamboyant hair color. I didn't dare to look at him as openly as Zhonghan. I only dared to take a few glances secretly. He seems to have changed and yet seems unchanged. He dyed his hair and also wore earrings, but his eyes and expression were still as cold. But when I looked down and saw the girl following him, I didn't dare to look at him anymore. That girl is Song Yuan. She was wearing a plain white dress and quietly following Xu Jin. Hey. Zhonghan nudged me. That girl can't be his girlfriend, right? Although I've heard people from the Polytechnic University next door say that there is a girl who often follows Xu Jin. Could it be her? Zhonghan pouted, but she is really quite beautiful. After saying that, she changed the subject. But yeah, you are even more beautiful. At this moment, I extremely regretted agreeing to come to be a volunteer with Zhonghan. Not to mention that we were standing opposite them. The key is that this red volunteer uniform is conspicuous enough. Seeing that I didn't answer, Zhonghan talked even more vigorously. That girl is as beautiful as a lotus emerging from water. And you are that kind of flamboyant and beautiful. When I first saw you and your figure, I was completely indescribable admiration. There were more and more people. The two of us volunteers were standing there. Zhonghan still didn't know how to restrain herself. The more she talked, the more excited she became. Sister, if you keep talking, we will be reported. I helplessly pressed her hand that was about to be put on me. Then Zhonghan winked at me. At first, I didn't know what it meant. Until Sheng Changfeng trotted towards us. He pursed his lips and looked at me with a smile. Jinyu, are you a volunteer here? Zhonghan didn't know when she ran away. I was left here alone, feeling awkward. I nodded as a response. Sheng Changfeng has been chasing me since the beginning of school. Even though I clearly told him that I didn't like him, he still did as he pleased. I saw my own shadow from him. I seemed to know what a big trouble I was to Xu Jin back then. Then after the game is over, wait for me. Let's have a meal together. Before I could refuse, Sheng Changfeng ran back with a smile. I opened my mouth and watched his leaving back speechlessly. Zhonghan, who didn't know when she came back again, said in a long voice, actually, I think Sheng Changfeng is quite good. A very persistent young man. Meeting my murderous gaze, she quickly made a zipping motion. I helplessly lowered my head and thought about how to get through this long time. Zhonghan leaned close to my ear again. Hey, do you know that handsome guy from the Polytechnic University? Why is he looking at you the whole time? Hearing this, my heart missed a beat and I hurriedly looked up. Xu Jin was sitting in his position, leaning back slightly. There was no expression on his face. Only the storm was brewing in his upturned peach blossom eyes. Could it be that he also likes you? Zhonghan covered her mouth in surprise. I was really afraid of her mouth. I quickly covered it. Don't talk nonsense. He has a girlfriend. Woo woo woo. She blinked her eyes. The words in her mouth vaguely popped out from between her fingers. His girlfriend is not as beautiful as you. A whistle sounded and the game officially began. Xu Jin's red hair was extremely eye-catching on the court. Coupled with his superb ball-handling skills in dribbling and passing, the girls above screamed continuously. Out of the corner of my eye, I inadvertently caught sight of Song Yuan on the opposite side holding a water bottle. The girl's eyes were filled with overflowing love, with starlight shining in them. Looking at her, I couldn't help but recall a basketball game between our school and the opposite school, which happened to be a friendly match. As soon as school was over, I pulled my then desk mate and took the water prepared for him and went to occupy a seat early. Later, there were more and more people. My desk mate and I secretly rejoiced in our cleverness. At that time, Xu Jin was as much in the spotlight as he is now. I held the water and was about to wave to him when he looked over here. My desk mate couldn't stand my expectant eyes and said to me, I'll hold the seat for you. You can go over and say hello to him. I happily put down the water. Before I could take a step, I saw Song Yuan holding a bottle of water and walking towards Xu Jin with a bright smile. The players had their own seats. I stood there in a daze and watched Song Yuan sit on Xu Jin's seat very naturally. A sharp whistle pulled my thoughts back. I looked at the basketball court in a daze and saw a group of people surrounding something. Song Yuan also hurried up. I didn't know when Xu Jin was supported and walked in front of me. Song Yuan was following beside him. When she saw me, her expression was stunned and she opened her mouth in surprise. Xu Jin was panting, with a slight flush and sweat on his face. He pursed his lips and stared at me intently with his pitch-black eyes. A player said, "Classmate, can you take us to the infirmary?" I nodded. At the moment I turned around, I don't know if it was my illusion. Xu Jin gave me a somewhat aggrieved look and then lowered his eyes dejectedly. The infirmary was not too far from the basketball court. It took only 2 minutes to get there. I stood outside with Song Yuan. She smiled gracefully. Have we met before? Probably not. I lied without blushing or having a rapid heartbeat. I glanced inside and heard her say to me, "Thank you for your trouble. I'm here. You can leave now." "Okay," I answered readily. A trace of surprise flashed across her face. After the basketball game was over, it was almost dark. Because we had been standing all day, Jonghan and I went to the cafeteria to get food and then went back to the dormitory to eat. Help. Having a man around doesn't help either. I'm still tired. As soon as Jonghan came back, she immediately collapsed on the chair and turned on the air conditioner. I had just opened my meal to eat when my phone rang. I glanced at it. It was a call without a note. I hung up immediately. In the next second, the phone rang again. I was chewing food in my mouth. It seemed to be the same one just now. I reached out and clicked to answer. As a result, the other side didn't say anything. I cursed in my heart that there was something wrong with it and then hung up. Jonghan, who is calling you? Why don't you answer? I don't know. After answering, no one spoke. Probably a scammer collecting voices. In a bizarre dream, I dreamed again of the year when I first saw Xu Jin in my freshman year of high school. The boy was wearing loose school uniform and giving a speech as a student representative on the stage. At that time, the breeze just blew up the boy's bangs, and it entered my heart when I was 15. Xu Jin, just be with me. I've been chasing you for so long. This was the second year I was chasing him. I sat beside him, propping my face with my hand, and looking at his profile in fascination. As always, Xu Jin ignored me as if the test paper under his hand was more beautiful than me. I wasn't annoyed either. Shamelessly approaching him, there was a refreshing smell of boys coming from him. Think about it. I gently poked his strong arm with my hand. He remained motionless. I still remember that when I touched him for the first time, I almost rolled off my seat. I looked at him and smiled with curved eyes. At that time, I thought he was shy. The boy sat upright and really didn't give me even half a glance. I pouted and complained to him, I am so beautiful. There are a lot of boys chasing me. If you don't seize this great opportunity well, maybe one day I will change my mind and I will definitely not like you anymore. After I finished speaking, Xu Jin paused for a moment. I was overjoyed and thought it was going to succeed this time. As a result, the boy sighed softly and said, Xia Jinyu, focus on your studies. I really don't like you. You. Try it. How do you know you don't like me if you haven't tried? I hurriedly retorted. I still wanted to say something when Song Yuanyuan's gentle voice came from behind. Xu Jin, are you leaving? Xu Jin glanced back and replied, I was anxious and pulled Xu Jin, if you don't like me, do you like her? At that time, Xu Jin showed a rare extra expression towards me, which was frowning, don't talk nonsense. If Xu Jin had said that he liked Song Yuanyuan at that time, would I still pester him? I think I definitely wouldn't continue to like him anymore. But he didn't say that, so I continued to like him. Fortunately, I didn't like him year after year because there is no next year for me and him. There are really many extracurricular activities and free time in college. Compared with the boring high school, college life is really colorful. I met Sheng Changfeng who, accidentally, met me on my way back to school after tutoring children. The latter scratched his head and looked at me with a somewhat guilty look and said, what a coincidence to meet you here. Sheng Changfeng at this moment is very much like Xia Jinyu who used to go to great lengths to, accidentally, meet Xu Jin. At this moment, I smiled at him, have you had a meal? No, not yet. I said, then I'll treat you. The restaurant in front is very delicious. Sheng Changfeng tried to make conversation, yes. Do you also like to eat Northeast cuisine? I also like it very much. While waiting for the dishes, Sheng Changfeng tilted his head and asked me what I liked to eat and which city I liked. In fact, Sheng Changfeng and Xu Jin are two extremes. Sheng Changfeng has a very sunny and bright appearance, while Xu Jin is indifferent and cool. I looked at him and smiled, in fact, you were very much like me before. His excited gestures paused abruptly. Then his eyes lit up and he obediently replied to me, really? I took a sip of water and said to him softly, I used to like a boy very much. I was happy whenever I saw him. I had never liked going to school so much. As long as there was a one-day holiday, I would think that I wouldn't see him for another day. I chased him for 3 years. During those 3 years, I always thought that in the end he would definitely be with me. But the truth is that the boy didn't like me at all during those 3 years. After finishing speaking, Sheng Changfeng frowned tightly. He was a smart person and knew what I wanted to say. So, Sheng Changfeng, I don't want you to waste your time on me. I don't want to fall in love for the time being. He asked me, is it because of that man? Do you still like him? This question made me pause. Do I still like him? I pursed my lips. Actually, I don't know either. The dishes were all served. Above the steaming dishes, Sheng Changfeng looked at me and said, then can we be friends? I don't want to lose even the chance to be friends with you because of this. I said, okay. After eating, he sent me downstairs to the dormitory. From a distance, I saw a tall and slender figure standing under a tree. As we got closer, Xu Jin was holding a paper bag in his hand. The moment he saw me standing with Sheng Changfeng, his face instantly turned pale. Sheng Changfeng lowered his head and asked me, is it him? I silently glanced at him. In Xu Jin's eyes, it seemed that we were whispering. I asked him to leave first. Xu Jin strode and blocked in front of me. The words he spoke were filled with panic that he himself didn't expect. Where did you go? He didn't dare to ask what our relationship was. He was afraid of hearing an answer he didn't want to hear. If it was a classmate or a friend asking me, I would say, we went to have a meal. So, now I said to him, we went to have a meal. Xu Jin couldn't help but feel a sourness in his eyes. He hoped that I would retort and say, none of your business. At least that would prove that I still cared about him. Here you are. His throat was sour and his voice was hoarse. I remember you used to like the desserts from this store very much. I twitched the corner of my mouth and shook my head. I don't like eating them anymore. They are too sweet. He said, do you not like desserts or do you not like me anymore? After saying that, I looked at him when I heard his words. His eyes were red, as if I had abandoned him. But from the beginning to the end, we had no relationship, right? The evening breeze gently blew by us. There were continuous students coming and going around. There were also several couples lingering below, reluctant to part. I don't like either anymore. I said softly. Xu Jin reached out and pulled me. His whole body was teetering. Is it because my attitude towards you was too cold before? That's why you don't like me anymore? Sorry. Please forgive me and give me another chance. I actually liked you a long time ago. But I didn't know it was love at that time. By the time I knew it, it was already too late. You had lost contact with everyone. I went to your house to find you. I went to find the class teacher and the classmates who knew you. They all said they didn't know where you had gone. Tears fell from his eyes. His eyes were filled with despair. I can't find you anymore, Xie Jinyu. Hearing him say that he liked me, I didn't know what I was feeling. Was I happy? It didn't seem so. I just felt a little sad. Why did he have to say that he liked me only after I had given up on him? I broke free from his hand that was holding me and took a step back. My eyes were filled with sourness. Don't come to find me anymore. He opened his mouth and looked down at me. His peach blossom eyes covered with mist were extremely pitiful. Finally, he lowered his head and stepped aside to let me leave. Don't place your love on a precipice, for it is too high to reach. When I first read it and substituted myself and Xu Jin, a sentence appeared in my mind at that time, pull the flower on the high mountains down from the altar. But later I thought, how could true love be placed in such a lofty position that makes people unable to feel it? That's too tiring. When Song Yuan found me, I had just come out of the library. She smiled slightly. I heard from your roommate that you came to the library. Can we talk? In the coffee shop. Song Yuan looked at me. After a long while, she smiled. Do you know what my first impression was when I saw you? Huh? I shook my head. Annoying. She curved her mouth and stirred the liquid in the cup with a spoon. You live freely and unrestrainedly. You are beautiful and come from a wealthy family. You clearly have everything, but you still want to compete with me for Xu Jin. My parents favor sons over daughters. Xu Jin's mother raised me at her home. When I first saw Xu Jin, I liked him. I have always carefully kept this love in my heart and didn't dare to show even a little bit. But you can blatantly express your love to him. Her hand unconsciously tightened. Why? Her smile became bleak. I really hate you. You are confident. I am inferior. Even in the end, Xu Jin likes you. I thought that moment's post could make you completely give up on him. Clearly you had lost contact. Why are you still here? I listened to her quietly. She lowered her head and her voice had a nasal tone. I thought it was you who moved him with time. So I thought that as long as I was like you, staying by his side and accompanying him, I would definitely be with him. But it didn't happen. After he went to college and lost contact with you, he became even more gloomy. Except for attending classes and playing basketball, he put all his thoughts in the laboratory. No matter how hard I tried, he didn't give me any response. She said, Xia Jinyu, do you also think I am a clown? I said, you like him and pursue him. This is just a matter. That's all. She cried as she smiled. I didn't know how many emotions were hidden in her crying. Finally, after paying the bill and leaving, she said, Xu Jin really likes you very much. I lowered my eyes and glanced at her. Then I walked out of the coffee shop. Xu Jin, who was leaning against the wall just a second ago, immediately came over. His expression was a bit nervous. What did she say to you? Since the last time, Xu Jin has started to follow me. As long as he doesn't have classes, he will come to find me. I turned my head and looked at the boy in front of me. He was wearing a sleeveless t-shirt that I liked. His muscles were firm and smooth. Now his expression was exactly the same as that of a pug at a friend's house. You. After I went to college, I didn't have any contact with any girls. I swear. Except for the senior sister in the laboratory, that's for study. Then he pointed to his flamboyant red hair. I told you last time that it was dyed for me by my roommate who insisted on it. I suddenly remembered what Song Yuan had said to me. I asked him, if it wasn't me who chased you for 3 years, but another girl chased you for 3 years, would you also like her, right? After I said that, Xu Jin's breathing paused. He reached out and touched my hand, and finally held it tightly. I don't know. But before you and after you, there were also many girls chasing me. I directly refused them all and wouldn't give any chance. He looked at me frowning and hurriedly said, when we first met, you told me that you liked me. I didn't refuse you. I recalled our first meeting. After the opening ceremony was over, I pulled my friend and squeezed through the crowd to find him. At that time, many girls pretended to walk beside him on that path. He stopped under a tree and waited for his friend. I immediately approached him and reported myself with a smile. Hello, classmate. I am Xia Jinyu. Xia of summer. Jin of Jinyu. Yu of Jinyu. He put his hands in his pockets. There was impatience hidden in his eyes and he didn't speak. At that time, being lovesick, I just thought he was so handsome. You remember my name. We will see each other often in the future. Xu Jin. I persevered and narrowed my eyes. Listen, I like you. I want to chase you. After saying that, I immediately ran away. Well, now I know the truth. It's not that he didn't refuse. It's just that I didn't give him a chance to refuse. I didn't want to talk to him and was about to leave. Hey, are you angry? He quickly followed and said, can you tell me what I did wrong? If you don't tell me, I don't know how to change. If you tell me, I will definitely change. Others all said that the flower on the high mountains of the Polytechnic University was tamed by a freshman girl from the neighboring school. He reported in advance before doing experiments. He also pestered the girl to go out and play together. They had meals together every day. In my senior year, Zhonghen asked me, when will you get married? It happened to be heard by Xu Jin who came to help me move things. He smiled and said to Zhonghen, it should be very soon. I will send you an invitation then. Okay. In the car, Xu Jin leaned over and said with dissatisfaction in his tone, when will you take me to meet my father-in-law and mother-in-law? I'll take you when it's time. I looked at him with a smile. 3-year inspection period. I was really wrong. If I could go back to high school, I would definitely kick myself a few times. Let you be proud. Let you be proud. Xu Jin pointed at himself with his finger and said vividly. I was amused by him. His eyes darkened and he cupped my face and kissed me. I will bring all my assets to propose marriage tomorrow. In his junior year, Xu Jin started a game company with a friend. He provided the money and his friend provided the technology. The scale gradually expanded. That day at my house, he and my dad went outside. When they came back, My dad was very happy and said that the two families should meet sometime. I tilted my head and looked at him. You have means. That's right. My father-in-law is very satisfied with me. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, a little smug. Our wedding date was set in September. Shujin stood on the stage, looking at me with joy and tears in his eyes. I held my dad's hand, wearing a pure white wedding dress, and married the boy I had been sure of since I was 16.